morning, good afternoon, good evening to all my blessed beloveds out there in video land. I kind of lost my words. They fell out of my ear, I think. Oh, no. Anyway. We are getting through this season. It's been amazing. Look at all of these guests. Look at all of these beautiful people doing wonderful things. You could be one of them. Hey, I've got all my links below in every single episode. You hit that bell, you subscribe. It's amazing what you can do to not only grow the show, help grow the show, support the show, but you can also share with your friends, share with your family, share with your lawyer, share with your doctor, share with your nurse. Don't share with your stalker, but you have a lot of people you can share with. And there's a lot of people in this world that absolutely could use a little inspiration, a little hope, a little excitement, a little bit of, I don't know, maybe a swift kick in the backside. Yeah, that's it. That's what we do here at Living and Thriving. We kick you in the backside. Not really, but it is what it is. How are you? You're live.
I am live. It's better than being dead, you know?
Terry, you know, if you're pushing up daisies, you're still doing something that's wonderful for the environment, okay?
Good point.
Plants are cannibals that eat us. They give us what we need to live, and then when we die, they take what they need to live themselves. So it's a whole horror book waiting to be written.
Yes, it is.
Are you ready for me, Terry? Come on.
Yes, ma'am. Trust me. I think we'll get along fine. I think we're kindred spirits, you know?
You my brother from another mother?
There you go.
Good morning, sunshine.
How are you?
You know, I am one of those people that I realized a long time ago, because I live in God's waiting room. I don't know where you're located, but I'm in Florida.
I'm in Denver.
Okay, so you still have young people in your city. Here, everybody's kind of waiting to die. And I find that if I complain, nobody listens or cares. But I also find that I'm a jerk if I do complain, because I have rainbows every day. I have manatees. I have Jurassic Park in my front yard, side yard, roof, and backyard. So there's always something exciting here.
Sure.
You know, so, you know, life is good.
What part of Florida are you in?
South, way south.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like four hours from the Keys.
Okay.
So way south. And I just got a little message on my phone that there's tornado warnings and hurricane warnings. I'm going, yeah, and?
It's Florida. That's an everyday occurrence.
When I lived in Vermont, we had warnings about snowstorms. Like, that's just...
Yeah, exactly.
You have to surf.
I've got a good friend of mine who I was a policeman with in California, who's an author now, who lives in the Keys. So she loves it. Wouldn't trade anything.
She wouldn't trade anything, and I bet you she named all the chickens. The Keys has a chickens problem.
Really?
Ask her about it. It's hysterical.
Okay.
They're like trying to do ordinance. These northerners are coming down trying to change our state. You know how that is.
Yeah, we got everybody from California coming to Colorado, and you know, now it's all liberal and everything. So yeah.
Right. And I just kind of crack up. I'm like, why are you trying to change the chickens? Like, they're just part of the culture there. Chickens and pink flamingo shacks with booze. That's the Keys.
Nothing wrong with that.
People are so funny.
They are, and it's fun to observe them, you know.
Yes, and laugh and laugh and laugh.
Because we're perfect, you know. I mean, that's just the way it is.
I am a sack of water that's deliciously hypocritical, frighteningly filled with dichotomy, and I surf on a molten lava rock without a steering wheel. I am so not perfect.
I could have never come up with that euphemism that you just did there. That was very good.
You need me in your life.
I do.
So Terry, who are you? What do you do? And what makes you you?
Who am I? What do I do? And what makes me you? Well, let's see. So I'm the oldest of three boys. You can't tell this by looking at me, but I'm 6'8" tall.
Oh, you're the short one in class.
I am. And actually I have a brother who's 6'7" who pitched for Notre Dame, and another brother who's 6'6" who was drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers in the National Basketball Association. So you sat behind our family.
Are we hanging from your ceiling?
Pardon me?
Are we hanging from your ceiling like Andre the Giant furniture?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's my wife has a stool in every room in our house in order to get to, I mean, everything is up high. So that's the only way she can get to stuff. So it's
Poor
actually
honey.
quite comical. So played basketball in college at the Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina. Despite having 3 knee surgeries in high school, I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. And yeah, exactly. But again, this is how old I am. When I finished college, I had to move home to find a job. This was long before the internet was available and all that kind of stuff. So
Oh, wow. The phone was still connected to the wall. You're older than
the
me.
phone was still connected to the wall. It was still pulling out the newspaper and looking at the want ads to find a job. There you go. That's how that happened. Fortunately, I found that first job in the corporate headquarters of Wendy's International, the hamburger chain. But unfortunately, I lived with my parents for the next 3.5 years as I helped my mom care for my dad and my grandmother, who were both dying of different forms of cancer. Professionally, and this may take a few minutes, I was that marketing executive. I was also a hospital administrator. I was a police officer. I did undercover narcotic drug work. I was a SWAT team hostage negotiator, a basketball coach, motivational speaker. Last year, I became an author, but for the last 9 years, I've been a cancer warrior. And then finally, my wife and I have been married for almost 28 years. We have one child, a daughter, who's a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy and is a lieutenant in the newly formed Space Force, the new branch of the military.
Kick-ass daughter. Props to the daughter. Woo!
Very proud of her. Very, very proud of her. So,
she had to work really, really hard, more than I think you can understand, because you're a dude, and it's so hard for women in the military.
It is. Well, actually, she's coming to your neck of the woods. She and her fiance, when they get married in October, will both be in Florida doing their thing. So,
all right, cruising.
Yeah. So there'll be a couple young people there.
Yeah, but they only stay for a week. Then they run like hell.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing people do is drive around golf carts and John Deere's around here and drink.
Place smells like Ben Gay, It's like.
Why are these hemorrhoid billboards everywhere? That's not a joke. It freaked me out.
Oh, I believe you.
Tampa, when I was a little girl, Tampa was like a very sweet little town. And now it's obnoxious. And every block or so, there's hemorrhoid billboards. And I'm starting to feel really self-conscious, like uncomfortable. Should I be having this problem? And I don't
Yeah. Preparation H. Gotta love it.
Good times. Anyway, on a less anal subject, what are you doing with life as a cancer warrior? I like that the warrior term. That's something that's really important to me, because I think survivor gives a little bit of ho-hum, whereas a warrior, you're like, I got this.
Well, we'll see if I have it. I'll give you kind of the Reader's Digest version of my 9-year odyssey. So 2012, my high school basketball coach had a callus break open on the bottom of my foot. Don't think a lot of it because I'm a coach. I'm on my feet a lot. But when it doesn't heal, I go to a podiatrist friend of mine, and he takes an x-ray. He's like, I think you got a little cyst in there, and I can cut it out. And he does. And he shows it to me. Just a gelatin sac with some white fat in it. No blood, no dark spots, nothing that would give either one of us pause. But he sends it off to pathology. 2 weeks later, he calls me up. And the more difficulty he was having telling me what was going on, the more frightened I became.
Yeah, because you knew.
Yeah, well, he just laid it out. He's like, Terry, I've been a doctor for 25 years. I've never seen this form of cancer. I have a very rare form of melanoma that appears either on the bottom of the feet or the palms of the hands. And he said, I think you should go to MD Anderson Cancer Center and be treated. So I did, had 2 surgeries in MD Anderson. And then once I healed, I was put on a drug called interferon, which was horrible, nasty, and debilitating for me. And basically, it gave me flu-like symptoms for 2 to 3 days every week after each injection. And I took that drug for almost 5 years. So imagine having the flu every week for almost 5 years.
And your wife is still with you? Because we all know what it's like with a man with the flu.
Oh, yeah, we're terrible. We're terrible. Absolutely. We're the biggest babies in the world. So, yes, you know that. So, yeah, she was still with me. That was 2017. The drug became so toxic to my body that I ended up in the intensive care unit with a fever of 108 degrees, which usually isn't compatible with being alive. But Fortunately, I was at a level 1 trauma center and they were able to stabilize me.
They
Went
didn't
off
give you an ice bath and a whole thing? Because
oh yeah.
that's like Jacob's ladder right there.
And I was freezing. I was so cold. And when the fever started to spike, they just ripped all these warm blankets off of me and packed me in ice and gave me a drug. It was an orange colored IV. I just remember that. But I remember kind of lifting my head up and looking down my body, and my body literally looked like the hood of a car in Florida, that had been out in the sun all day. It was just, heat waves were just coming off of it. That's the last thing I remember until I woke up in the ICU. And so that was 2017. The disease came back, of course. 2018, had my left foot amputated. 2019 came back again, had 2 more surgeries in my leg. And then last year, 2020, an undiagnosed tumor in my ankle grew large enough that it fractured my tibia, my shin bone. And further testing found out that pretty much my entire lower leg was full of cancer. So last April, in the middle of the pandemic, I had my left leg amputated and also found out I had tumors in my lungs, and I'm undergoing treatment for those right now. So I'm on that uplifting story.
Well, when God gives it to you, he really gives it to you, huh?
Yeah, he doesn't mess around,
Not with you, no.
No, not at all. So
wow.
It's just been a constant battle for the last 9 years, but
so
it's still
I'm going to squeeze you. I ask hard questions in a gentle way, I hope.
Ask them in a hard way if you want.
If I squeeze you too hard and you don't want to answer, just raise your hand, okay? Do you think that the cancers your grandparents had may have been what you're experiencing? No.
So 2 summers ago, I had all 88 genes that doctors either know of or suspect cause all forms of cancer. I have no mutations in any gene on that spectrum, which begs the question, why did this happen? My oncologist is like, I don't know. I can't tell you why it happened. And I don't spend a lot of time worrying about it. It's not, I have it, so I've got to deal with it. And I do.
My grandmother died of a 1% disease, and polyangiitis, I think is what they call it. Your cells literally just die. And it happens so fast that scientists haven't really been able to get a litmus test or any kind of foundation on it because you just died too quickly.
Okay.
With this type of cancer that you have, is that kind of the same thing where it's just so rare, there's not a foundational process for them to work with, or?
Not necessarily. I mean, when I first started on this back in 2012, literally the reason I was put on interferon was my oncologist said this, we're just trying to kick the can down the road. We're just trying to, it was not a cure. It was just, we're going to try to hold it at bay. I mean, the good side of interferon was I didn't so much have as a sniffle during that 5-year period because it kills everything that's in you that doesn't belong there. But it also kind of wrecks your body while it's doing that. So, I don't think so. I mean, I think we're kind of at a situation where, the cancer is what it is. And there's really not a lot I can do about it. And I'm just going to continue to fight, and we'll see what happens.
What are your options now with the lung pieces? Are they doing biopsies, removal, anything like that?
They're not. It's funny because my oncologist showed me my CAT scan from back in 2020 of my lungs. And I kind of looked at him like, how was I alive? He's like, I have no idea how you were alive. I mean, I have tumor all in my lung. I have fluid around the pleural spaces in my lung and that. And now that a lot of that has resolved, I was on chemo originally. Now I'm on a clinical trial drug that has shrunk the tumors by about 30%. It's not going to be a cure, but it will buy me some more time, and it will also give the doctors information on how much drug is in my system, how my system reacts to it, and things like that. So I kind of always look at it like, yes, I would like the benefit of the drug, but this is kind of bigger than me, that maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, they can take what they learned from me and other people and make a drug where people aren't going to die, where, they can cure this and move forward. So There really isn't there's a lot more treatment for melanoma than there was back in 2012, but there's no, at this point, cure for it.
So I want to pick your brain as much as I can, that ooey
Sure.
mass in between your ears. And we're running out of time, believe it or not. These conversations go by so fast. What kinds of things would you recommend for people to be aware of when it comes to self-care? I mean, that has to be pretty freaking scary. I've had cancer. I know the path, but you know, not to the extreme that you've had. And I have a friend who's a producer in California. He has been battling prostate cancer, and it's now in his lungs, and it's just not going, it's not letting him go. So with your particular type of cancer, I guess my first question is, if you caught it earlier, would you have had a higher chance of not losing your entire leg?
No. From what my doctor told me, that
nasty, mean beast.
Yeah. When I got it, as my doctor said, wherever it is in your body, it's already been there. So back in 2012, when it was first diagnosed, and I was pretty good about, I mean, I had a physical every year. I did what my doctors, told me to do in terms of testing. And when this happened, I mean, I didn't wait, a year before I went to the doctor. I mean, I waited a couple weeks to see if it would heal on its own. And then I went to the doctor. So I don't think that, I did get it early. But my doctors always said, wherever it, it's in my lungs now. Well, when you first got it, it was in your lungs then. It was just too small for us to detect. So I'm in a clinical trial, as I said, and I'm with another woman who, for her, it's in her liver, so it's just, it is what it is. So like I said, I don't think there's anything I could have done that would have gotten it to the point where, I would have been cured. I got it, and now I got to live. It's just like having diabetes or something. Like it's going to be a chronic disease for me for the rest of my life.
Gotcha. So I don't check the bottom of my feet. Is that something I should be doing?
Well, I think if you have a callus break open or something like that, you would know that it was painful, and you should have it checked out. And that's one thing. I talked about my dad having cancer. My dad had end-stage breast cancer when he was diagnosed, knew he was sick for months, didn't go to the doctor. And I just vowed at that point, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have a physical every year. I'm going to do what my doctor says. If something happens, I'm going to go to the doctor. Yes, it's scary. Yes, I remember sitting in the MD Anderson waiting or exam room, and I had a nurse come in and tell me what was going to happen. I had a nurse practitioner come in and tell me what was going to happen. I had a surgeon come in and tell me what was going to happen. And I'm sitting on this table like, why is this paper here? This crinkly paper doesn't see. I'm like, all these people are telling me about this, what they're going to do to cut me open and cut this stuff out. And my mind was, why is this paper here? So, it just kind of gets overwhelming, and you're like, whoa, I mean, this is real. This isn't fake. But if you have this, don't be afraid. Go to the doctor. And like you said, if you find stuff early, more than likely it can be cured.
All right. So we are running out of time, and I'm trying to read through my notes. You wrote a book about this, right?
I wrote a book. Some of it is in there, but it's more about finding your purpose in life and living it.
So let's talk about that for the next couple of minutes, because this goes by really fast, and I want to try to cover all of the bases. You're almost 7 feet tall. It's a lot to cover.
It is. Very, very much so.
The ghost behind the door is my two littles. They're 4 inches long, 4-legged, and very needy today. So
I understand.
Not a ghost. I'm not that exciting.
Poltergeist, right?
Oh my gosh, how much fun would that be? I cannot wait to become a ghost. I'm going to haunt so many people.
Do they know that?
Oh yeah, I remind them.
So yeah, the book was really a conversation, or was born out of 2 conversations I had. One was with a former basketball player who I had coached, who moved to Colorado, and my wife and I had dinner with her and her boyfriend. And I said to her one day, I'm really excited that you're living close, because I can watch you find and live your purpose. She got real quiet for a while, and she's like, well, Coach, what do you think my purpose is? I said, I have no idea what your purpose is, but that's what your life should be about. Finding the reason you were put here and then living it. So that was one conversation. The next conversation was with a young man from college who connected with me on LinkedIn, and he wanted to know what I thought were the most important things he should learn to not only be successful in his job or business, but in life. And I didn't want to give him the, get up early, work hard, help others stuff. Not that those aren't important. They are. They're incredibly important. But I wanted to try to go deeper. So I spent some time, I wrote some notes, and eventually I had these 10 thoughts, and I sent them to him. And then I sort of stepped back and I was like, well, I got a life story that fits under this principle, or I know somebody's life who emulates that principle. So literally, I had my leg amputated in April of 2020. I had my chemotherapy that I started in June of 2020. During that 3-month period, I sat down at the computer, took those 10 principles, and started to build stories underneath them. And that's how sustainable excellence came to be.
Excellent. All right. So give us one of them, because again, we're short on time. But what can people walk away from? Because this is going to air around the holidays, and I want to get people jazzed and motivated and excited for next year because, well, why not?
Sure. The one that I seem to gravitate to all the time, and again, the principles are not in any order. So, 10 is not any less important than one. The one, and I've done this, and that's probably why I gravitated. You probably have too. And the chapter is entitled, Most People Think with Their Fears and Their Insecurities instead of using their minds. And I know I've done that. And whenever I speak to young people, I always tell them, if there's something in your heart, something in your soul that you want to do, that you have a passion for, but it scares you, go ahead and do it. Because at the end of your life, the things you're going to regret are not going to be the things you did. They're going to be the things that you didn't do. And by then it's going to be too late to go back and do them. So I would encourage people not to think with their fears and their insecurities, because that's an easy thing to say, but a very hard thing to do. And I know I've done it.
I think
you
we
probably
have our
too.
priorities backwards.
We do.
I think that we've become such a consumer driven society that we forgot what living is all about. And for me personally, at the fresh age of 45, I have decided that the rest of my life is going to be the best of my life. And I'm going to retire in every sense that I can. Meaning I'm traveling more. I'm doing things that I've always wanted to do because that is my purpose. And I do this a lot because I love this. But I'm not going to wait until I'm 65. My body's not going to be as spry as it is. And that's really important to gravitate to what your real purpose is, not your monetary goal, because that comes.
Yeah, I mean, when people ask me about what is an uncommon and extraordinary life, it has absolutely nothing to do with what kind of job you have or how much money you make or what kind of car you drive. We're not all born with the same gifts and talents, but we all have the ability to become the best person that we're capable of becoming. And
look at you, Terry. You're a pretty cool dude. I'm glad you showed up on my doorstep.
Hey, it's Monday,
Manic Monday. So where can we find more information about you, my friend?
So I have a blog. I put a daily quote for the day, motivational. It's called motivationalcheck.com. You can also get access to my book, but you can get the book pretty much online anywhere that you can buy books, Apple iBooks, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, all that places.
What's the nugget you want to give everybody to finish 2021? Is there anything special that you feel so important for people to hear?
Can I tell you a quick story?
Yes.
Okay. So I've always been a big fan of Westerns growing up. My mom and dad used to let me stay up and watch Gunsmoke and Wild Wild West and stuff like that. 1993, the movie Tombstone comes out. You may have seen it. Kurt Russell played a guy by the name of Wyatt Earp, and Val Kilmer played a guy by the name of John Doc Holliday. Now, Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday were two living, breathing human beings who walked on the face of the earth. They're not made-up characters for the movie. And they called him Doc because he was a dentist by trade, but pretty much he was a gunslinger and a card shark. And Wyatt was a lawman. And here are these two men from entirely different backgrounds that form this very strong and lasting friendship. And at the end of the movie, Doc is dying at a sanitarium in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. And the real Doc Holliday died there. He's buried in the Glenwood Springs Cemetery. And Wyatt is destitute at this point in his life, has no money, has no job, has no prospects for a job. So every day he comes to play cards with Doc, and the two men spend that time just playing cards. So they're talking about what they want out of life. And Doc says, when I was younger, I was in love with my cousin, but she joined a convent over the affair, but she's all I ever wanted. And he looks at Wyatt and he says, what about you, Wyatt? What do you want? And Wyatt says, I just want to lead a normal life. And Doc looks at him and says, there's no normal, there's just life, and get on with living yours. I see so many people, you probably do, who sit back and are like, if this happens to me, then I'll have a normal life. If that happens to me, then I'll have a successful life. If this happens to me, then I'll have, a whatever life. Don't wait for that. Don't wait for life to come to you. Open your heart, get out there, find what you're supposed to do with life. And I can promise you, at the end of your life, you won't be so scared of dying because you have lived your purpose. You got out there, you made it happen. So I'll end with that story for you.
Perfect. Terry, you are the bestest for Everest. Don't lose my number. I
won't.
Just had a blast with you. You're a great guest, and you'll be in my prayers, my friends.
Thank you, Rusty. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Talk to you soon.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You're watching Living and Thriving with Rusty. I'm Rusty, and he is another testimony as to what I've been telling you all along for 10 years now, thousands of interviews all over the world. Get a Nerf gun, get dirty jokes, play in the mud, finger paint, do you in a happy, healthy, productive way. We are designed to laugh and have orgasms. So if you can laugh and have orgasms at the same time, you are living the fullest version of you, of exactly what you're designed for. Don't worry about stuff that you have no control over. You are a sock of water surfing on a molten lava rock without a steering wheel. You have no control. No matter how many things hit you on the head saying that you do, you don't. So be present, be focused, do what it is that makes you happy. The money will come. Life is short and we don't know how long we have. So know that you're loved, know that you're beautiful, and be kind. That's the first step in recovery of anything, is to learn how to be kind to yourself and to everyone around you. Even if that means you're buying a cup of coffee, cleaning out the closet. How many times do we have to go through this list? We do it every show. You know what I'm saying. Get out there and go do you. Be a good version of you and lighten up a little bit. Until next time.